All right, let's go through the full life cycle of a real life deal that we did here in Seattle. We actually closed this earlier this year. So this was in West Seattle. This is a regular single family home. This one did have DADU potential, which is very, very popular here in Seattle. This was in Seaview B plus location. The strategy here was fix and flip with potential future DADU upside. We'll get into it in a second, but the DADU potential was questionable on this, so it was important that it was still a pretty solid deal numbers-wise. Because if there is DADU potential, we can usually sell at a higher margin because they can build and make more money on the deal in the future. And if there's no DADU potential, we have to be very close to flip pricing. So this one came from a cold call. And we're going to go over all this. So let's get into it. The lead source. This came from a cold call by the team. Date that the lead was generated, we cold called them on November 12th. Ashley called the homeowner during her cold calling session. They had a simple conversation. She went through the script. It was pretty straightforward. The seller mentioned that he was open to selling, and he said he wanted about $750,000 for the property. Okay. Ashley happened to be out of town, so I went to the appointment, so I know this one very well. Takeaway here is most deals come from normal conversations. Here's the text from Ashley from her conversation with Steve, the owner. Thursday appointment between 1-2, house is empty. He added an attached single garage, has access from both streets, she noticed, and he has 2 other buyers offering the next couple days. He wants 730, but I know there's flex. So she could tell by his tone of voice and how he was talking about it that there is probably room on some BS price that he was giving. I'm thinking 680 yields 20K wholesale fee. So she is thinking that we can sell for 700. Okay. He said he converted basement, but didn't add a bathroom, possible DADU play on the back. Motivated but not realistic on price since he's going off of Zillow. But it's empty. He doesn't live there. So that's great. All kind of pointers of motivation, especially the house being vacant. That's probably the biggest one here. So I went to the appointment on November 14th. When I first got there, it was very clear that the house was vacant. He let me know that it had previously been a rental, and the owner lived about an hour away. So vacant property owned by a landlord. He lives far away. He probably doesn't want to deal with this. And that is what I'm thinking going into this, walking through the house with Steve and the conversation that I'm going to bring up. So the building rapport piece, and this is where, especially if we're in a competitive situation, we want to focus on rapport and providing value, because that's how we earn the trust over the other losers who are coming in, putting an offer on the table, walking away, asking no questions, don't care about the owner. So I was asking simple questions, simple conversation. Do you live here, or did you live here? No, it's always been a rental. Where do you live now? Mukilteo. That's a long drive to manage a property. So we know, again, owning a rental far away creates friction for landlords, especially when they've owned it for a long time. And he mentioned that he owned the house for 20 years. And overall, his situation was he was not in major distress. He was motivated to sell, and he was ready to take one of the offers on the table. But the motivation was that he wanted to simplify his life. He lives far away. He mentioned that the wife is sick of having to deal with the house, and they have to maintain it, paying taxes on it, et cetera, et cetera. They don't want to be a landlord anymore with this property. So he was open to putting on the market, or at least he made it sound that way, right? He's like, oh, I don't need to sell. Maybe I'll list it, blah, blah. Sometimes they just BS and say that because that's all the leverage and negotiating power that they have. But he seemed more interested in a direct cash sale to avoid commissions. He was Asian, so he was cheap. He didn't want to pay fees. I say that as an Asian, which very common profile in Seattle for our sellers. So he wanted simple and done, and that was also made clear by the fact that he mentioned and that he's fielding offers from other direct buyers, or quote unquote direct buyers. We don't know if those were actually buyers or if they were worse or wholesalers, because every wholesaler is worse than us. So pricing conversation. So this is the nitty gritty of it, right? If we're talking about the house, we got to talk about the price. And when discussing, so he said he wanted 730. I asked how he arrived there. He said Zillow. So he was looking at Zillow, and I looked up Zillow as well, and it said I think it said something like it was between I think it was exactly 7:30 actually. Sorry. So it's a good neighborhood with views. Big new houses sell for 1.5 million plus, which was true. His information was correct, and there's no reason to argue that. And it's common that sellers reference retail listings or Zillow or whatever. This seller actually was comparing this house to. It was literally just like 4 or 5 houses down, but there was a bigger house with like panoramic views. This house had like a little baby view, and they were getting like 1.5 or 1.6 million. Way bigger house, not comparable at all, which is fine. And if the seller's open to education on that, we'll do it. But if not, I'm not going to argue. So instead of that, I kind of showed the seller 2 options. I said, and for me coming in as a real estate professional, that's my job is, hey, I'm already here. I might as well tell you what my professional opinion is, which is you can list the property and get close to what you're asking for or more, 750. But you would, as you know, Mr. Seller, this isn't your first rodeo. It's not the first house you bought. You're going to have to pay realtor commissions, closing costs, and excise tax, which will net you $690 to $700K. Our cash offer is $680. We're not going to charge commission, very minimal access. We're not going to show it to a ton of people. Faster closing, simple process. So this is an important distinction sometimes if a seller isn't super familiar with the retail price versus net proceeds. Because sometimes sellers, they're like, well, the neighbor got 700, so that's how much I want in my pocket. And I'm like, yeah, your neighbor got 700, but they also had to pay commissions, closing costs, excise tax. So they really net like 650. But this guy was open to the information. He asked me to email the net sheet and our offer so that he could review them. So here is the very email. I said, oh, sorry, his name's Sam. Said, hey, Sam, nice to meet you today. Ashley and I appreciate your consideration of working with us to buy your home. I've attached some example net sheets showing how much you take away if you were to list versus sell directly. And this is ethical wholesaling in a nutshell, right? We're showing exactly what he could get by listing and exactly what he would net with the cash offer. So listing sheet, I put in the rates that I would charge, and I was offering to list for 2%, which is super cheap. And that's the selling price of $750. Cash offer sheet, we can cover the closing costs at $680, so you'd only pay excise tax. Additionally, here you go. Here's the comps. You want to do some research? Here's some research straight from the MLS. Average time on market in Gatewood neighborhood is 21 days to sell. Let me know if you have questions. So ultimately, Mr. Sam took about a week to think about it and consider the other offers. And in the meantime, Ashley was staying in touch and following up while he was doing so. And he said, I would sell for $695. And we said, hey, you know what? We're really at $680, but this is close enough that we'll sign it, but we're going to need an inspection period to bring our partners through and confirm that this is something that we can close on our side. So about a week later, we signed the contract for $695. He was, we determined emotionally attached to the 700. So landing slightly below was reasonable. So purchase price, $695, inspection period, 18 days. We don't submit earnest money. We submit earnest money when inspection period is satisfied. So we have 18 days, not much skin in the game to get this sold. And if we got to the end of the 18 days and we couldn't sell it, then we would have to ask for a lower number. If he's not open, then we cancel the contract. But luckily, we marketed well to our database of 3,000 plus buyers in Seattle. We began marketing immediately after going under contract because house is empty, seller wants a fast close. We want to get this done as soon as possible for him. So what we did right was December 20th or sooner. So that was a 30-day close or sooner. And of course, we want to deliver to the seller and provide a great service. So again, we're operating with expediency on this. So here is our email that we sent. We gave a description of the property. So it's a 1-story with basement with the view. Main level, 2-bed, 1-bath, kitchen and living. Downstairs, there's a partially finished basement, 2 rooms plus laundry and utility. So I want to put as much information as possible in my marketing to buyers. This is through MailChimp that's our email system. So new hot water heater and furnace, $750 up and down. Lot is $5,500, street to street, full street access to back, not alley. I specified that because that's important in Seattle. partial views of the sound from main level. So then I did put a rehab cost. If you just watched deal analysis before this, you heard me say that I don't normally put rehab costs, but I went ahead and put an estimate because there are several exit strategies with a deal like this. Like, it's, look at the pictures, it's livable, but you could also clean it up and do a light flip. You could do a full rehab to get to a higher ARV, or you can just leave it as is. So $0 rehab to rent or move into the house as is with $750 market value. And we were marketing right at market value, $750, right? So $50K rehab to update just the upstairs for an $800 to $850 ARV. That would be break even to $50K equity if they put in $50K in addition to purchasing for $750. Or $120K rehab to update upstairs, fully finish downstairs, and add a bathroom for $850 to $900, which would put them in all in at $870, and then $850 to $900 ARV. So pretty thin. And then for the dadu, $750 to $800K ARV. So sometimes we'll put in like cost to build dadu or whatever. We'll add in, like, this one had a huge tree on the side of the property. This turned off a few buyers, but it was to the side enough that some were still interested in the possibilities of building. So put in the property info. And again, so we're marketing at $750. So we're trying to make a $55K fee. This was determined by market value. So we know that generally with dadu potential properties, we can get market value for deals because they're that high in demand. If this was a normal fix and flip, we probably wouldn't even have signed with the seller because the price needed to be way lower for a fix and flip. Maybe if I do quick math, ARV of, oh God, could I do this quick math? ARV of 900, 80% of 900 is probably like, I don't know, 750. Could pull up my calculator. 900 times 80% is 720 minus 120 rehab was at 600. Yeah, so an investor would pay 600, which means we need to be in the fives to do anything there. We were looking for $30K earnest money from the buyer. We make it very clear who pays closing costs, so the buyers know. In this case, buyer pays buyer and seller closing costs, and seller pays excise tax, property sold in as-is condition. It's always the case. All right, so off of this, we probably got like 10 or 12 emails, and we showed 3 buyers the property. And from signing on the 20th, we actually had the seller didn't want to drive back from Uncle Tio, of course. So we put a lockbox on the property. The seller put the key in there. And so it was very easy to show the property. We had 3 buyers go over there and check it out. And ultimately our highest offer was $735. So, where we were marketing for $750, the buyers know that they can make an offer wherever they are willing. And we take the first offer at asking or best offer. It just depends on how much demand we actually get on a deal. These days, because it's been a competitive market and our sellers have been quite high on price. So our spreads are a little thinner and we have to work with some urgency. So we take what we can get and we run with it. So this one we assigned for $735 with our $695 contract price as a $40K assignment fee. That is a good day in wholesaling. I'm not going to try to market it more or try and hold out for more. I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in getting a decent price, making it a fair deal for the seller and the buyer, and moving on to wholesale another house. I do not get greedy on my deals. So original closing was scheduled for December 30th, right? That 30-day close. The buyer requested an extension on the 27th, 3 days before closing, and he needed a couple more weeks. He had a good reason. This guy was a very experienced flipper in this particular neighborhood, actually. And he said something about he has another project he's working on, and he's waiting for that one to close so that he can get the proceeds out to pay for this property. And we can't really argue with that. So we just make it work for everybody. If the seller needed to close, which usually isn't the case, usually, sometimes it's super inconvenient, but they're just like, okay, it is what it is. I'll give you 2 more weeks. This was quite a long extension. Usually an extension will be like a couple days for a loan to finish processing. But for a 2-week extension, we're like, man, we promised the seller the 30th. This sucks. But ultimately, we just the seller was fine with it. So we extended to the 15th. But yeah, again, if it's a very urgent situation for the seller, then we might add more money on the deal, or we just tell the buyer, hey, you need to get your shit together because you need to close on this. The seller won't grant an extension. All parties have to agree to an extension. And the earnest money from the buyer is non-refundable. So if the buyer couldn't close on the 30th and the seller was not willing to extend closing, then the buyer's earnest money would have been forfeit. We don't want that to happen, for the buyer's sake, but if that's what the seller needed, then that's what the seller would need. And sometimes buyers already know, actually most of the time, buyers already know what kind of timeline they can close on. So like, for example, if we got to like December 10th and we still didn't have a buyer, then we would have to really be on crunch time and probably just start asking for an extension from the seller. Those are the kinds of problem-solving things that happen all the time in wholesaling. So if you ever have a deal you're working on and you have something like that, definitely let us know so we can help you work through it if you don't know what to do. So closing, we close on January 15th. The final numbers, $695 contract price to the seller. Buyer paid $735. Escrow paid us $40K. And it was a fairly quick timeline, like 2 months essentially, from lead generation to close. And that's going to be a little more rare. Usually we are doing a lot of follow-up, excuse me, until a lead is ready for an appointment and to sign a contract. So what made the deal work? Seller was motivated. Long-term landlord, ready to sell. Property was vacant. That was great. A lot of times in Seattle, the sellers or the homeowners are concerned about people breaking in and squatting into their properties. So vacant home, they wanted to get it off their hands, have somebody start working on it so nobody moved in and claimed the property. It can happen in Seattle. We were very transparent with the seller, and he actually appreciated that and how we were very communicative during the process, from the offer all the way through closing. He appreciated working with us. Strong location, development upside that actually allowed us to get quite close to the seller's asking price. So key lessons with this one: deals start with conversations. Begin with a simple cold call. The cold calls will work, my friends. Motivation matters. Understanding the seller's situation is more important than arguing over price. The key with this was, while I was explaining the numbers, and I explain it, I remember sitting there with the seller and I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm in my head, like, this guy's probably just going to list it or take one of these higher BS offers who are just going to try to change the price on him later. But I said, I understand that, you want to sell, but you're not tight on cash, so you don't have to take a low offer. This is what you probably get on market, and this is what we're offering cash, and it's really up to you, right? Which process you want to go down. So there you go. Show options. Don't try to sell them on it. It's just like, hey, in my professional opinion, here's what we can do. I know that what we do it very well, and we can make this quick and easy for you. If you have other options, I'll do this. I'll say, if you're looking at other offers, I'm happy to review them with you and point out any red flags on the contracts, because these people don't look at contracts every day. We do. And I'm not a lawyer or a legal professional, but I can look at a contract and smell BS and let them know. That's a nice little edge that we'll do with our sellers. Follow up. The contract was signed a week after the appointment. If Ashley didn't follow up with him after the appointment, we might have become an afterthought, and any other offer who was following up might have taken priority in the seller's eyes. And of course, good deals sell quickly, my friends. We already know within a couple of days of marketing a property how the interest level is and whether we're going to have to go in for a price reduction. Our buyers give us feedback. They say, no, F this deal, this needs to be at blah, blah, blah. They like to just be very straightforward and let us know where we're wrong. It's great. Or they'll say, oh, it's close. I think I'd be at this price. Or like the best kind is when they call us right away and they're like, hey, I want to see this property. Can you just I'll pay your price. Just take it down. Give me first dibs on this. That's how you know you have a good deal. So it's not about finding perfect deals. It's about finding motivated sellers, understanding their situation, and presenting those solutions. And of course, connecting the property with the right investor. So cold call turned into $40K.